All right, what is happening? Welcome to week 11 of the Other D1 podcast. My name is Jordan. I can't pick a stand pick from Save My Life Selfo. And joining me is Kyle. I still can't be perfect on my stand pick, Fishbeck. Kyle, how we doing, man?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. It's already November. We got 3 weeks left of regular season, man. So soak it up.
I know this is crazy, crazy, crazy. This season has flown by for sure. But I mean, what stood out, outside of the Southland that we're gonna get to? It was a great slate of games. What stood out for you?
Yeah, I mean, let's start with FBS. I mean, there was quite a few upsets this week. We
Yeah,
had 5 teams in the top 25 get knocked off by unranked teams. So I mean, obviously A&M. I was watching that one closely. They got their brakes beat off of them pretty good by I
yeah,
think
they
an
did.
underrated South Carolina team. But I do.
That's surprising that they're not ranked. Like they've done this a couple times this season already. Like they're a damn good football team.
They've played teams close. They just haven't been able to close them out. And A&M was the first one that they've finally gotten over that hump. Other things to mention, I mean, Cam Ward for Heisman, right? He just looks he looks good back there, man. 400 yards and what was it, 4 or 5 touchdowns?
I know he's a stud. He's been killing it. The Ohio State Penn State game was unbelievable. We're gonna go ahead and jump into our Week 10 recap, and then we'll kick it over to our interview. We got a great interview. Something that we really wanted to do something a little different. We already interviewed all the head coaches throughout the conference, and wanted to just bring a different perspective. We got the team doc for Incarnate Word. He's an orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Matt Murray. So it was a great conversation with him. I mean, I feel like we could have talked for 3 hours
Easily,
diving
yeah.
into some of these, how to categorize injuries and what to really for when it comes to rehab times and all that. So I mean, it was very enlightening, and I thought it was good to provide that insight for y'all. So but let's jump right into it. So first game we got is Houston Christian playing at number 9 UIW. Final there, Incarnate Word winning 45-20. Kyle, what you got on this one?
I mean, it was UIW all day long.
Yeah, it
And
was.
I know HCU scored a couple late TDs to make the scoreboard look better, but I mean, yeah, UIW just they came out to play, and let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Jalen Wathall has taken the internet by storm with his celebration.
Yeah, he has. Just, I guess, maybe standing on your head. I don't know the significance of it. Maybe it was just him being dumb and doing a silly celebration, but I absolutely loved it. It was hilarious. We're recording on Sunday, but a guy for the Falcons, he
Yeah,
just did
Drake
it.
London.
Yeah, he just did it for his touchdown celebration, which I thought it was hilarious. Just a viral moment there. I
That
mean,
ref
what?
came out quick with the flag too. He was
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he
rapid
did.
fire. I don't know if you saw Barstool wrote an article about it, and they were ripping him. The ref, they were like, "Hey,
Yeah.
what are you doing?"
Yeah, I mean,
So
he wasn't taunting anybody. He was just doing
no,
a stupid celebration to stand on his head. I don't know. Yeah, just a great dominant performance by UIW here. I mean, what stood out to you the most on this one?
I thought Calzada really looked good. Oftentimes we're pretty critical of him.
Yeah,
Even if he has a good game, we'll pick apart his one interception pretty bad. But no interceptions this game. All his deep balls were on the money. When he went off script, he didn't do anything, didn't make any poor decisions. Yeah, I mean, he looked really good. And obviously, DeKalen Taylor, just get that guy the football and get him in space, and he's going to
dude.
make people miss.
So I went to this game. I usually make every homecoming game each year for Incarnate Word, just because like that's a big alumni game for us, and it's just great seeing the guys just hashing out old football stories.
Yeah.
It's just funny. But yeah, watching DK Taylor. Just he is so quick and fast, and just as soon as he hits that corner, he just turns it on. It's just awesome to watch. He's an absolute stud. But yeah, Calzada looked great. CJ Rogers, so it was pretty funny. I was walking by the stadium, and I actually ran into Coach Bechtel over there at the visitor locker room,
Okay.
and I said, "Hey, who we starting today? Are we going with Eli or CJ?" And he goes, "Rolling with CJ." So unfortunately, he had not a good game. That's why, and once the score got away from it, that's why they brought in Cutter Stewart. But yeah, they were just hoping that CJ would provide that spark on offense, and just couldn't really. It just seemed like they couldn't find a flow.
Yeah, it's UIW's got a killer defense, so that didn't help him at all. And his offensive line certainly didn't do him any favors.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Let's roll through the stats real quick. So for Houston Christian, Cutter Stewart was who came in. He was 10 of 12 for 145 and a tud. CJ Rogers was 8 of 22 with 72 yards and those two picks. Man, the one pick I saw in the first half, just a bad overthrow.
Yeah, it was.
Right into the defender's hands. Not much of a rushing game. AJ Wilson though, he showed up late. He had 3 receptions for 111 yards and that tud from Cutter. But I mean, you go at the on the Incarnate Word side, Zach Calzada 29 of 44 for 306 and 4 tuds. DKLon Taylor, like we talked about, 128 yards on 14 attempts and a touchdown. Roy Alexander 7 receptions for 89 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jalen Waldhall 4 receptions for 59 yards and a touchdown. I mean, just a high-powered offense on the Incarnate Word side.
Yeah, I mean they could do this all day long. I mean, even Taylor's ability to return punts, I think that gets overlooked too.
Yes,
they're getting good field position every single drive. So
yeah, I wrote that down in my notes. Just him being able to be a punt returner while also playing essentially every snap at running back. Just that speaks to his conditioning and skill level. We'll kick it off to the next game.
Next game up, we got Southeastern Louisiana at Lamar, pulling out the win in overtime, 30-27. Just another nail biter. I mean, they're going to have to start handing out anxiety medications to the Southeastern fans.
Hypertension medication. Yeah. Well, I mean, what a freaking game. 3 weeks in a row by Southeastern where it comes down to the last second. This one obviously goes into overtime, but just unbelievable. I mean, penalties were huge in this game. Turnovers were big in this game. Robert Coleman, he started the game and he played 3 quarters and he just had that bad interception. Really 2 bad picks. The first one, it was a pick 6, 50-yard return by Coriel Pierce. Just a simple out route that he just underthrew or really threw behind the receiver just badly. And Pierce was able to just undercut it and just jump it right away. The receiver wasn't even looking. And then the second one where he's rolling out to his left. I mean, what's the cardinal rule of quarterback play, Kyle?
Yeah, don't throw across your body.
Don't throw late back across the field. Cardinal rule of playing quarterback at any level. And he does that, just a bad interception. So he gets yanked after that play. And, Longino comes in and he plays the rest of the fourth quarter and in overtime. So I got tons of notes on this one, just especially later on in the game. Riley Callahan with an unbelievable 37-yard field goal to tie the game, push it into overtime. PI call to set up that field goal with 35 seconds left in the fourth quarter. I mean, it was 4th and 10 for Southeastern.
Got bailed out.
I mean, literally got bailed out by a PI call. You can't do that, if you're Lamar as a defense. You cannot do that. And then, you look in overtime, you got a surprise no PI call. Definitely should have been called.
Yeah, Coach Rossmondo was
had
some choice words
heated,
for the referee.
Heated. He just kept yelling, "Do your job." I thought that was hilarious. Bad fake punt by Southeastern earlier in the game.
They've had a couple.
They had a couple the past few weeks, and then their luck definitely ran out. Yeah, and then Eli's pick with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I mean, really, it went off the receiver's hands, but from a quarterback perspective, just get that ball lower, hit him in the chest. Don't leave it, up for any interpretation to just hit it up in the air and just basically play tip drill with it. Too many penalties. Yeah. I mean, what do you got?
Yeah. I mean, first half was all Lamar, and it should have been worse than it was if it wasn't for that fumble in the red zone by Kalen Griffin and then the pick 6. This game could have easily been 21-0 at half, and then the second half would have been a whole different story. But they let him hang around. Southeastern was able to chip away at that lead. Just get the ball in Antonio Martin. Don't do anything crazy. Don't do anything flashy. Don't ask Eli to do anything too much. And sure enough, I mean, get in overtime and find a way to win.
Yeah. I mean, Eli, he didn't he looked pretty good. He was just a good game manager.
Yep.
This is what we talked about for the preview episode, is which Eli are we going to see? Are we going to see, that consistent game manager, or is he going to make some dumb decisions? But he did a good job this week. The Southeastern offense just focused on running the football and hitting those short passes. Eli had a couple good passes down the field where he's throwing like those back shoulders that he hit a couple times. So he was 23 of 38 for 208, 1 touchdown and a pick. Antonio Martin, he had 62 yards on the ground with 2 touchdowns. Darius Lewis, it seemed like every other throw was to Darius. He had 7 receptions for 93 yards and a touchdown. And we look at the other side, they really were like gashing the shit out of Southeastern's defense. on the run game.
Yeah, Kalen Griffin was running all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, he had 146 yards on 29 attempts. So, and then Robert Coleman, he had 2 rushing touchdowns. He had that long one in the first quarter,
Yep.
and he was able to pick up a good chunk of yards with his feet. Really came down to turnovers in this game.
3 turnovers will do it.
Defensively for Southeastern, you had KK Reno leading the way again with 11 total tackles. He's been really, really good for that Southeastern defense. And Keydrain Callahan, he had that one pick. I mean, just like you said, game of turnovers. I mean, the no PI call in overtime, that's just got to eat you up if you're Lamar. We'll move on to our next game. Next game is SFA at Nichols. Final there. SFA wins 28-12. Kyle, what you got on this one?
Well, I hit my stamp pick, SFA -1.5, and you missed your over 54.5.
Yep.
I tell you, I mean, big win for SFA. Slow start, but then they rattle off 21 points in the last 5 minutes of the first half. Nichols just got to protect the football. Pat McQuaid with a rough day.
Rough day. 3 picks on the day for Pat there, and
then
got to take care of the football.
I will say SFA had some luck on their side because they put the ball on the ground 5 times, but only lost it twice. So if Nichols finds a way to get some of those fumbles, then I don't know this game shakes out a little bit different.
Yeah,
You're not having to try to throw the ball so much. That's not your style of play. So you're not having to throw the ball late in the game.
Right.
Down 14 or 15. So
yeah, I mean, my biggest notes are just special teams and turnovers and penalties. Too many penalties and turnovers. Special teams got to clean some of this stuff up. I mean, you had the block punt in the second quarter by SFA. I mean, the deep snappers snapping it into his personal protectors. Yeah, it just got to clean some of that stuff up. I wrote down Pat McQuaid, just take care of the football, man. Just some bad throws. Sam Vidlak, he had a pretty damn good game.
It's a great game, and his touchdown passes were just gorgeous, all on the money.
Just dots, absolute dots. His one pick, it was a bad overthrow. DB did a good job juggling that, making a good catch. But I mean, like you said, his touchdown throws, they basically outweigh those picks. And luckily that wasn't the difference in the game here. Yeah, let's roll through the stats real quick. So Sam Vidlak was 14-25 for 262, 4 tuds and the pick. He leads the nation in touchdown passes for FCS. So great to see that out of him. Just another huge game. Kylan Harris, he had 6 receptions for 106 yards and 2 tuds. And then we go to the other side. Pat McQuaid, he was 27 of 50 for 248, 1 touchdown and 3 picks. Colin Guggenheim had 80 yards on 17 attempts. Mikael Brockman, that guy's electric. 9 receptions for 89 yards. Just good day. Not like a crazy stat day there, but definitely a damn good day. But every time he touches the ball, it just seems like he just makes something happen.
Yeah, and they find so many different ways to get him the ball. I mean, he had 11 rushes for 61 yards. He's returning punts.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a true freshman. We got to start talking about him more because it's going to be fun to watch him.
Yeah.
I mean, hurdle the guy late in the third. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw that. Yeah.
So, yeah, it definitely starts with the turnovers. You got to clean those up. Even still, you had some chances late. SFA, I wasn't sure what they were doing. Gavin Rutherford, bringing him in at quarterback. I know he's more of their running power style quarterback, and they've done it in the past. But you have a veteran in Sam Vidlak. Why take him out of the game when you're back in your own territory? Because Gavin put it on the ground twice, 2 late fumbles that could have easily turned out bad for the Lumberjacks. But unfortunately, Nichols wasn't able to capitalize on both of those.
Right. Yeah, I mean, SFA, they keep their playoff hopes alive. Same with Southeastern. So if with Nichols and Lamar, you got to think. You just got to pray that something happens, that they can slide in to hopefully get an at-large bid, but we'll see how it shakes out the rest of the year. So,
yep. All right, last game on the slate this week, we have Texas A&M Commerce at McNeese. McNeese getting the much-needed win, 31-3. Jordan misses his stamp pick of Texas A&M Commerce plus 10.5. But
thanks for reminding me. Yeah, appreciate it.
What did you like about this one?
I hated everything about it. Yeah, I literally said it when I stamped it. I was like, I really don't like this one, but I'm gonna do it anyways. I thought I had enough faith in Ron Peace to lead us to the promised land. But yeah, I mean, just McNeese. I mean, they completed 2 passes and they win by 28 points.
Right.
I mean, and yet their run game was just absolutely unstoppable. And then, this came down to turnovers as well. I mean, just some bad balls being thrown on both sides.
On both sides, yep.
Yeah.
It was questionable decisions.
Yeah, I mean, Will Madonna, he got the start, but, he gets yanked for I guess Ron was feeling better after that, I guess, ankle sprain or knee tweak last week, and they wanted to see if, Coach Dolezal wanted to see, hey, can Ron, provide that spark that we need. So
Yeah, I don't think it was anything Madonna did. He didn't do anything great. I think, yeah, just like you said, they were just down. They needed a spark, so they went to peace in the second half. But they were definitely more adamant about running the football this game. You could tell they had
trying to be more balanced offense. Yeah.
right. I mean, they didn't go well. They didn't get many rushing yards, but at least they were committed to trying to keep that rushing attempts and passing attempts
Right.
somewhat even. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, let's roll through the stats real quick. So Ron Peace, he was 10 of 23 for 138 yards. He had those two picks, the one to Mikey Davey, and I mean, just a bad throw. Just late on the football. Those hitch routes. That's got to be right out the break. He just waited too long, and Micah was easily able to undercut that one.
yeah.
And then
Second one was even worse.
Yeah.
Extending the play. I mean, he's scrambling, pointing downfield, trying to direct traffic, and he just throws it into a wasteland of McNeese defenders.
Yeah,
I
just
really don't know
basically
what he was
throwing
doing.
it up. Yeah,
Yeah.
just basically throwing it up. Will Madonna, he was 6 of 16 for 50 yards. KJ Schenkel, so this was an interesting stat line. So he had 25 yards on 12 attempts. He had 45 yards gained, but 20 yards lost. And so, with these plays, I get you're trying to make a play, you're trying to extend it a little bit, but get north and south, man. You can't just stretch plays out to the sideline and expect to run backwards, and
Never works out, man. Yeah,
it really doesn't.
especially when it was one of them that happened in the red zone. He got strung out by the defenders, and he just tried to peel off backwards, and he ended up having to settle for a field goal when you should have been scoring a touchdown from the 7 yard line. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, BK Jackson, he only had 22 yards. Defensively, Brandon Tucker Jr., he had my boy B-Tuck, he had 10 total tackles, 2 TFLs, one of them being a sack. Lavon Williams, he had the pick for 20-yard return, and then Kendall Paul gets the pick as well. We go to the McNeese side. So Camden Six Killer, like we said, 2 for 11 for 60 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. And then this rushing game by McNeese, just unbelievable. Joshawn Barbie had 124 yards on 24 attempts and a tud. Bryce Strong, he had 121 yards on 10 attempts and a tud. Obviously, majority of those yards were picked up. He had a 78-yard touchdown run. But yeah, the rushing attack for McNeese was just it was in high gear for sure.
yeah, I mean, like you said, 2 completions is just insane to still win by 28 points.
I mean, that's just insane.
They just jumped out so early, such a big lead that they didn't have to throw the ball in the second half. And when they did, I mean, Camden was not in his best form. I mean, some of those picks, the second one especially.
Right.
I'm sorry, the first was the bad one. He threw into the double coverage. The second one, really, in my eyes, wasn't his fault. Receiver coming out of the break, got tangled up with the DB, and he, it's a timing route, so you got to throw it with some anticipation, and he goes right by the guy's face mask. He just didn't have his head turned in time.
To me on that one though, like, yeah, I get, you gotta get the ball out on time with anticipation, but it was a little too hot. You know what I mean? Like it put a little bit of touch on it, maybe. I don't. I mean, that's nitpicking, But yeah, I mean, McNeese, like you said, they came out hot early and often. I mean, they scored 24 points to Commerce's 3 in the first half. So at that point, yeah, game's basically out of reach. They get another touchdown in the third quarter, and then the fourth quarter is just, all right, let's just hold on and run the clock
this
out.
clock. All right.
Yeah. Well, that's all we got for our recap. We'll roll through conference standings on the other side of this interview, but we're going to kick it over to our interview with Dr. Matt Murray. Like I said at the beginning, great interview with him, and we just want to provide some insight and hope people enjoy it. So we'll see you on the other side. All right, we'd like to welcome on a special guest. He is an orthopedic surgeon, team doc for Incarnate Word, Dr. Matthew Murray. Doc, how we doing, man?
Hey, doing great, Jordan. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Yeah, excited to have you. I mean, let's start here. You played, people probably don't know this. They probably don't even know who you are if they're outside of San Antonio, but you played college football at UT. I mean, they're currently ranked number 6 in the country. How are they going to shit the bed this year?
I don't think they will. We had a little upset against Georgia, but hopefully if things go well, we'll have a rematch, and I think we're going to do just fine.
Hey, love to hear it. Love to hear it.
Yeah, Doc, moving moving more to your medical career, you studied under Dr. James Andrew, world famous sports orthopedic surgeon. I mean, what did you learn from him that you implement in your practice today?
Yeah, it was really an amazing year. I did my fellowship with him, and I mean, we had NFL athletes flying in from all over the country, operated on countless people that you've probably heard of. Can't mention all their names, but it was a real amazing experience. The year I was there, we covered Auburn, and Cam Newton won the national championship. We took care of the Alabama Crimson Tide, the Washington Redskins. I mean, you name it. It was really an amazing.
Whoa,
experience.
can't say Redskins anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commanders. I'll never be able to keep that straight.
But yeah, I mean that's so cool. Like y'all, I'm sure all the different athletes y'all got to see was just incredible, right?
Yeah, it was amazing, and it really helped me get that experience. And now I take care of 30 to 40 high schools in the San Antonio area, and then take care of all the UIW athletics too. So it was really a good stepping stone to get started with all that stuff.
Well, I mean, you know, talking about sports, covering these teams, different sports injuries, you know, you got meniscus repairs, ACLs, labrum repairs in the shoulder, rotator cuffs. I mean, what's some of the typical rehab or recovery times? Like, we just kind of wanted to give our listeners a different experience with this and provide them more knowledge on, like, you know, what's a typical rehab time if a star player goes out?
Yeah, I got you. And that could be a very, very vague. I mean, we could be here all day talking about all that stuff and how much you want to get into it. And, you know, in our world, people want to know exact dates, how long somebody's going to be out from an injury. You can't always predict it. That's why. And it's kind of funny. If we don't know the answer to things, sometimes we just say, 4 to 6 weeks, because
Right.
we may not really have a clue how long somebody's going to be out. But, you know, when you're talking surgery or recoveries, you're usually in the 4 to 6 month range for a labral repair in a shoulder, about 6 months on an ACL or an MPFL, which is when you dislocate your patella. Easier things like meniscus, scopes, cleanups, and things like that could be in the 4 to 6 week range.
Yeah.
If you have a meniscus repair, that's a different story. That's going to be a little bit longer recovery. Broken bones tend to heal a little bit faster. I mean, sometimes you could have somebody back. Like, I think if you're watching the NFL, Pacheco for the Chiefs, he had a fibula fracture, and he may even make it back this season. So things are always different. They always vary, but we have good kind of baselines of how long you're going to be out after a certain type of surgery.
Yeah, I tore my ACL and meniscus my senior year. That recovery wasn't fun. I mean, just generally speaking, in your opinion, what is the worst sports injury you can sustain?
Yeah, I've been through ACL myself too, and it was 30 years ago. And unfortunately, things have changed a lot since then. But I mean, you name it. We don't ever want things like this to happen on a football field, but you can be looking at open fractures and dislocations of the ankle. And I had a high school kid I fixed the other day. He had one of those ankle fractures where his foot was pretty much turned backwards.
Oh, wow.
Had to get it reduced. And sometimes at high school games, there's no doctor there. And so he had to wait a couple hours to get it put back in. But, you know, I fixed him and he'll be ready for next year. But I mean, you can have bleeding out on the field and bones sticking out of the skin. And those are the worst things. Unfortunately, those don't happen that often. It's more the things you hear about, the shoulder dislocations, the ACL tears. Right. And yeah, it's no fun to go through that stuff, but we do so much of that, and there's so many of those getting fixed that usually people get back and they don't have many issues afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of ACLs, you know, I've been in your cases before. I noticed your technique for most of your cases is what's called a BTB, bone tendon bone. You know, why is in your opinion, that better than like taking a typical hamstring? Because that's what the majority of ACLs I feel like is hamstring.
Well, it's kind of shifted now, and we can kind of start from the beginning. You know, I tore my ACL in 1994, and I lucked out because they had just been fixing them, quote unquote, right for 5 years before that. So I lucked out and had a good surgeon fix it, and I was able to play college football afterwards. We've evolved, and you know, we don't want to get too technical for the purposes of this, but we've evolved. There's things that have changed. Screws have adapted. Implants have gotten better. In a few, maybe 10, 15 years ago, people were doing hamstring tendons. You're right, but that's really fallen out of favor. People are doing quad tendons more instead of hamstring tendons. But really the go-to tried and true for a high school, college, or professional athlete is a bone tendon bone or a patella tendon graft like you were talking about.
Yeah.
There's even, I mean, I go to meetings with NFL docs, and there's some NFL teams that won't take you if you haven't had a patella tendon graft done in your knee. But now quad grafts are gaining some steam and they're looking promising, but the data is just not there to back it up for long-term success rates.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's good to know.
Yeah. I think mine was a hamstring. Dr. Curtis did mine.
Yeah, I bet. And that was a good option at the time, but things have really evolved, and there's not as many people doing hamstrings as there were before.
How does it work becoming a team doctor? I mean, you're contracted to the university to attend all their games. Is that something they reach out for, or do you approach
It's
them?
really a lot more than people think, and the biggest thing that people don't realize is I don't get paid. I do not get paid to be out there, and we actually have to pay the school to have the honor of covering a team. And if you're an NFL doctor, we're talking seven figures to
Oh,
be
wow.
standing and taking care of an NFL team.
Jesus.
And there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of political battles you have to fight to be the one that takes care of it. And sometimes it's more than just saying, oh, we have a good doctor. It's more administrators, presidents, whole UT systems getting involved. You want to do that. And I wanted to do it coming out of fellowship, but it took me 5 or 6 years, and some political things happened. And we just lucked out to be the Incarnate Word team physician.
Jeez. That's,
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Not people, not
Pro
many
bono.
people know that. Yeah. Just
Yeah,
pro bono.
nobody realizes that. And if I'm not willing to do it, well, there's somebody down the street who will. So,
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
we love it. I love being out there. I don't just take care of the football team. I take care of all the sports teams. And basketball's getting started. We'll be at those games too. And we cover the soccer games, and we take care of the baseball, softball, volleyball teams. We take care of the swimming teams. We take care of everybody at the school. And it's amazing. And if I could just do that, I would. But that only
But
makes
you'd be
up
broke.
Yeah, I'd be broke. That makes up about a tenth of my practice, if not even less. I mean, the high school kids and the all the other business is what keeps us afloat, and I have to make a living. You can't just you want to have enough work just taking care of the college.
Right.
Sure.
Well, I mean,
Coach,
how has it been like, staying close to football and that higher level of football? I mean, obviously it's not UT, but how has it been being the team doc for UIW?
Oh, it's amazing. And I think I can relate more than most people. And I think the guys really appreciate that. I'm not, I tell people my first goal is for you to have a good joint and a good body when you're older. And so I have to keep that in mind. And then number two is getting you back on the field or on the court or whatever. And you have to keep all those things in mind. We can't, we're not shooting up somebody's knee that tears their ACL to get them back out there. Or just, we have to be smart. We have to know what's going on, how safe it is to return. And we have a really close relationship with all the trainers who are out there and are able to watch people and go through their rehab and everything because,
Yeah.
but yeah, I do think I have a better vantage point than most just going through this myself and not only playing football, but having surgery myself. And I understand it more than most people.
Right. Yeah.
I want to end here. I ask coaches this question all the time. You're still very close to the sport, obviously. What are your thoughts on the NIL and the transfer portal?
I think it's good. I think it's good for football. I think these guys deserve to get what they're getting, and that's why people turn it on. They don't turn it on to see the coach. They don't turn it on to see the CEOs and the presidents and the NCAA people. So I think those guys should get paid, and I think it's fair. I think the NIL is fair too. A coach can leave whenever they want to. Why can't the athlete? So, but on the other hand, there's got to be some kind of regulations because it seems like the Wild West to an extent.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to correct it myself. I'm just a dumb doctor, so somebody else smarter than us could figure that out.
Well, I mean, I wanted to ask one last question. So, I mean, throughout your career, in your opinion, what have you seen as a correlation between the weight room and maybe like you're seeing, a number of injuries happen out on the football field?
There's certain things that you just can't prevent no matter what you do. Strengthening, stretching, conditioning, all that is very, very important. It can help correct things to an extent, especially soft tissue types of injuries, hamstrings, quads, things like that. And we've evolved tremendously, even from when I played football. But like I said, we can't really prevent shoulder dislocations when you're using your shoulder to hit somebody. You can't prevent a concussion, no matter how big your helmet is or how many different things you're doing. There's just certain things you can't prevent, but as we know, weights and conditioning is so important, and we've evolved with the training staff we have, our concussion protocols and things like that have really made the game so much safer, even from Jordan when you and I played. I mean, it used to be when you get a concussion, oh, go take a couple laps and we'll check you out at halftime and go back in.
That's right.
But fortunately, you can't do that anymore. And people ask me about CTE. Are you worried about CTE? And no, I'm not, because we're so much safer than we were several years ago.
I mean, I already probably have CT. It's not a big deal, but
Well, we do that.
That's for sure.
Well, Doc, thanks. That's all we got for you. I really appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll be catching up over some beers pretty soon. So have a good
Sounds
one.
good, man. Thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dr. Murray.
Appreciate it,
All right.
Doc. See ya.
Y'all have a good one.
You too. Welcome back. Hope everyone enjoyed that interview as much as we did. I mean, Kyle, what was your big takeaway from it?
Yeah, man, it's really just a different interview. So it's interesting from that aspect.
Yeah.
I could listen and talk all day, but I'm sure just that conversation alone probably will run you $500 at the doctor's office.
Yeah.
But no, I just thought the contract, the situation, and how to become a team doctor, basically working for free. It's more of an
pro bono
advertising
stuff.
than it is for the actual surgeries. So thought that was interesting.
I thought that was wild too. Also, I mean, it was pretty funny hearing about the hamstring versus the patellar tendon ACL reconstruction, and then now a lot of people are doing the quad tendon ACL. So hamstrings essentially a thing in the past. They've had a higher failure rate. Hopefully yours doesn't fail, but
yeah, that was funny when I asked him. Oh, yeah. That's good. No.
Yeah, but it was cool to talk to him and just get a different perspective, just a different deal. So let's roll through our conference standings. So Kyle, I mean, UIW, they essentially control their own fate, right?
They do. Still undefeated in conference, but they've got 2 tough tests coming up against SFA and Lamar. So I mean, anything can happen. Southeastern's still in it. They need some help to find a way to get that at large. But yeah, it's really just gonna come down to those last 2 weeks against SFA and Lamar. Who finds a way to win, who doesn't. SFA just continues to impress, so there's no telling.
Right, yeah. I mean, UIW, they sit alone at the top of the conference at 4-0. Southeastern's right there at 4-1, and SFA is sitting at 4-2. So yeah, these last 2 weeks are definitely it's gonna be these are must wins for all 3 of these teams essentially. I mean, if you're Incarnate Word, yeah, you're guaranteed to win the conference, but pretty much, and you want to make sure you have a higher enough seeding that you can play a lower opponent. And then Southeastern and SFA are just clawing for those at-large bids.
Yep.
So yeah, these next 2 weeks are going to be super exciting, super important too. I mean, just every week so far has been just awesome. So that's all we got for y'all today. We will see everybody on Friday for our week 11. We're already almost at the end.
Flying by.
This sucks. I wish there was like 100 weeks of football. All right. Well, everyone have a great week, and we'll see you on Friday. Peace.
Cheers.